Now, before I get into the video, I was checking out some of my analytics, and it's like 80% are not subscribed, 12% are subscribed. So if you aren't subscribed, considering subscribing and turning on the bell notifications, that way you never miss an upload. And without further ado, cue the intro. Okay, Demon Slayer has an interesting case, being that it felt not too long ago Demon Slayer had just burst onto the scene with all of the spotlight and it was the big talk. And less than a few months back, it just recently got its ending in the manga. And so after doing a little more of reviews on different things within the shonen demographic and already covering a good amount of the more critically acclaimed seinen manga, I was asked to talk about Demon Slayer and give my thoughts on that. I do definitely want to get a lot of the praises I have for Demon Slayer out of the way before I kind of delve into its criticisms. And the biggest strength for me when it comes to Demon Slayer has to be the character interactions. The characters are extremely fun to see, to read, and to see interact with each other, whether it's in a fight or they're just chilling talking or if they're training. Tanjiro as a protagonist is one for the books. Now, when I say that, again, calm down. I'm just saying Tanjiro was one that didn't strike me as corny or cheesy or somebody who seems to be this overly done trend that we've seen before. Being that most of the protagonists that I've seen in Tanjiro's situation with the whole demons having family killed usually take a much more vengeful, angry approach, and they either rip and tear or they just wear all black. So for once, seeing a protagonist have this ginormous dilemma where he's had his entire family murdered, his sister has been turned into a demon, and now he has to become a demon slayer, well, for him to have such a gentle and kind aura and touch around him when dealing with his enemies at the end is really captivating and heartwarming, and it doesn't ever really come off as forced. And then we have Nezuko, who I don't think you could hate at all, even if you tried. And I think her, along with Zenitsu, help give the story a feel of progression, being that seeing where she starts to where she is at the end of the story shows that you've kind of come a long way, even though again Demon Slayer is a lot shorter than most of the bigger names within the shonen demographic. And since I brought him up, I might as well get him out of the way. Zenitsu is also a likable character. He has an extremely unique moveset that is super cool to watch on screen or when you're reading it throughout the manga, but I definitely do think what Zenitsu brings most to the table is again some of his perspectives and takes when a certain situation is bad or dangerous. But my personal favorite out of the entire group is Inosuke. I'm not saying he's the best out of the group because, you know, that could definitely be debated, but the man is a psychopathically competitive wild man who wears a mask and has an angel face underneath. I can relate to certain aspects of that. Nah, like I'm serious, catch me losing in a game of Uno and see how far some furniture flies. The fights within Demon Slayer are cool and all, but it's definitely a lot better experienced through an anime, which is usually the case with most fights, but that is kind of the reality when it comes to Demon Slayer, is when you take away the animation, the story is left a little more exposed, and it does not come off as groundbreaking as it does as an anime. This is definitely a series that if the animation does not fall off like it did for Seven Deadly Sins, it will be the anime was better than the manga. Now, story-wise, I won't say it's anything overly unique compared to some of the other things within the shonen demographic. However, I will say in style and in execution, it has a very unique case. The pacing within Demon Slayer was done really, really well, especially at the beginning, where it doesn't ever really seem to have these unnecessary fillers that just jar on the story for literally no reason, and every time you're reading, it feels like you're honestly getting closer and closer to the ultimate goal, which is to get Nezuko back and to defeat Muzan. However, they did build up Muzan from the beginning, and I will get into Muzan near the end of the video, but I will say that, again, the pacing was really well done. It's an entertaining, fun read due to the great character interactions. The protagonist definitely being the strong point of the series. Not only the bigger cast of protagonists, but then you have the pillars. The pillars are way more memorable than any of the moons, and definitely a lot more memorable than Muzan. I know the most popular of the pillars, if I'm correct, is the flame and the water pillar. My personal favorite is the sound pillar. I just rock with his style. But now, entering some of the things that I noticed, and maybe some of the slight criticisms that I have of Demon Slayer, and it would have to be with how far it at times takes those characters. Although the character interactions are definitely the biggest strength within Demon Slayer, I would have really loved to see if during some of those relaxed moments, instead of it just being constant comedy relief, we get a little deeper of a dive within those characters, especially Tanjiro. Now, that's not to say that there aren't moments where Tanjiro reflects on what's going on and that he doesn't have depth to its character, because I think out of all of them, Tanjiro has the most depth to him. I just would really love to see, with the situation that he's put in, that it's really explored upon a lot more. But then again, that is extremely difficult to do when your story is usually constant action, and the times that it isn't constant action, it's just training. So in a way, it's just action, just not life or death. And so even though it is an extremely entertaining and fun read, one of the more fun reads that I've had this year, I don't really think it has enough substance or even now the length to compete to some of the other greats in the shonen demographic that are still ongoing or have already ended. Another one of my biggest issues is the antagonists within Demon Slayer are hardly ever memorable, or in fact just flat out disappointing and weak. I've yet to hear, when talking about the best antagonists, no one's ever like, hey, you gotta put that one guy from Demon Slayer. And that's really why I said Demon Slayer has a little bit of an odd case, because when you look at some of the best characters within other things in shonen, it's usually the antagonist. With Naruto, it was Pain. With JoJo's, it's either Kira or Valentine. With Dragon Ball Z, it was Vegeta or Frieza. With One Piece, you have Blackbeard, Doflamingo, or Katakuri. You can pick. With Hunter x Hunter, Hisoka, Chrollo, or Meruem. Even with My Hero, my personal favorite character is Dabi, and I've heard Shigaraki has been going stupid in the recent stuff. So I find that to be a little bit odd and kind of detrimental to a series where, again, it built up really one antagonist who ended up being disappointing, and I think that was really what the series was missing. And you can't dismiss this one. That's honestly, I don't know how you can truly dismiss this one. The protagonists were extremely standout, but then again, there are many other series who did it like Demon Slayer where the protagonists do stand out, but they also have standout antagonists. And if you're going to have conflict within a manga, your antagonist should be at least somewhat passable. And honestly, what feels a little bit odd is some of the moons from earlier on felt a lot more memorable than the ones later, which is a little bit odd for me. And so now I address kind of the biggest stain on Demon Slayer, as it was sadly for Naruto. It was the way the series wrapped things up. Now I will say this, I definitely commend the author for wanting to wrap things up early, right? One of the annoying things is at times the series should be wrapped up, but they continue it because the company or whatever wants to make more money. Therefore, things end up going downhill. However, Demon Slayer still went downhill within its ending. Here's the thing. Muzan, the final antagonist, the big guy, the big boss, was somebody who was built up from the very beginning. I remember at the very beginning of Demon Slayer getting its attention and the anime coming out, everybody was talking about Muzan, this Michael Jackson vampire-like villain, and honestly, he automatically captivated me. I was like, oh, this guy's gonna be great. If this guy, he's gonna end up as one of the best antagonists. Like you have high expectations for Muzan, because that's what they set for you. This is the guy who's supposed to be responsible for it all. And the way the other moons hold such high reverence towards him, you would think this dude is the second coming of Jesus Christ. However, that final fight was so anticlimactic and disappointing. Muzan's ability came off as extremely lackluster and uncreative. Muzan as a villain, they built him up so much, but when he came out there, he never really presented much that made him seem memorable or at least worthy of having that title. Me and Anime X are going to kind of talk about it in our Rate the Anime Villain Part 2, but the analogy we basically used was if Muzan went to run, jump, and do a backflip, he ran and then tripped before he could ever do the backflip. That's honestly how it felt when watching Muzan, and it hurt. It hurt me because I was a big Muzan fan at the beginning. And then we have the whole shenanigans with Demon Lord Tanjiro, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this could actually be a blessing in disguise. Like if Muzan was low-key garbage, and then Tanjiro ends up being the final villain, and they have to take care of Tanjiro, oh my, yes, that would be a fire ending. But then that only lasts for like 2 minutes. He comes back to normal, and then we skip and we see the reincarnation, if you will, future generation of all of the characters. And the final chapter itself, where we see the future, didn't necessarily bother me a lot. I thought that was okay. It was sweet. It was neat and all of that. It just felt like the ending, or some of the things that could have been planned out for the ending, was cut off prematurely. So in overall, I don't think the ending itself was completely atrocious. Just kind of like Naruto's war arc, over time it has its positives, and it ended at the very end, ended on a high note. It just had a lot of downs and disappointments before that. So with all of that encapsulated, Demon Slayer is something that I think deserved some of the attention that it got, I understand we like to throw the term around overrated, but those of us that have read more outside of just things within the shonen demographic understand that Demon Slayer definitely does have its upsides, but it's not the greatest manga of all time, not even close. It definitely has its unique style, and if the anime continues, it can have the spotlight for maybe a few more years, but I do not see it having the substance, nor will it have enough time in the spotlight, I think, to compete with some of the greats within the shonen demographic, such as JoJo's, One Piece, Hunter x Hunter, Fullmetal Alchemist, etc, etc, etc. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Again, if you are new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, as well as turn on the bell notifications, that way you're notified when a new video pops up on some of your favorite anime, manga, or whatever content. As always, this has been The Masked Man. Hope everyone has a blessed rest of the day, and peace.